Our St. Vincent de Paul family is built on Christ's message to love one another. When you think about it, all the world's problems could be solved if we as Christians would just love one another. If the whole world came together and just loved one another, what problems would not be solved? You can't come up with one area, whatever the problem may be, that wouldn't be solved by that. And that's what our St. Vincent de Paul family tries to do. Tries to, in a very small way, love one another, one person at a time. Our mission of charity is strong because it's built on the gospel values of reaching out to those in need. On today's show, we're going to focus on loving one another and making a difference in the lives of the most vulnerable.
Frederick Ozanam, the founder of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, valued friendships and defended his friends no matter what the cost. He showed a great tenderness when dealing with his family and had a great reverence for his parents. He died of consumption, now known as tuberculosis, in 1853. He was only 40 years old.
For over 20 years, the St. Vincent de Paul Community Pharmacy has served our area. We provide prescription medicines for those who have nowhere to turn for this most basic healthcare need. Please, if you need your medicine or you know a family member that needs their medicine, contact us. Kay, how can they get in touch?
383-7450.
Give us a call today and spread the word so that we can ensure no one goes without their prescription medication. You know, Jesus' message to us is to take up our mat and go. Let's talk about go. And it's not just G-O.
It's G-E-A-U-X, because in South Louisiana, everything is go.
Nothing's G-O.
No, we don't use that down here.
Yeah, so why should we embrace that message, take up our mat, and live our faith?
Yes, so there's a wonderful parable in the scriptures that talks about the man who had been paralyzed, and he lived on a mat. He could not move on his own. His legs didn't work. And so he had to rely on the goodness of others.
Right.
He had to constantly depend on his friends or his family to bring him where he needed to be. And so when they heard that Jesus was coming to town, the healer, the one who was performing miracles, his friends decided to take him to Jesus. And when they got there, they found a crowd.
Yeah.
Everybody knew the Savior was in town. Everybody wanted to be there. And so they're not deterred. They search for ways around the house to get their friend into the Lord's home, into his place to be with him so he could be healed. And they end up climbing on the roof, the gospel tells us. They climb onto the roof and they open the hatched roof and they lower the man down in front of our Lord. And there it's Jesus that heals him. And Jesus' words to him are so beautiful. He says, "Rise, take up your mat, and go." And I love that parable because every day, no matter what is ailing us, no matter what is hurting, no matter what brokenness there is in our lives, God is constantly trying to reach out to us, to heal us, and invite us to take up our mat and go live our lives. And if you think about that invitation and you think about the struggles we all have, there's always something getting in the way of us following the Lord. And yet he continues to call us to healing. He continues to call us to conversion. He continues to call us to live our lives. We can hide. We can sit and sulk and be sorry for ourselves, or we can choose to do something with what God has given us. And I think that's the invitation of that great parable, to rise, to take up your mat, and to get moving, to never give up on what God can do for us, and to go out into the world and to proclaim the good news, because that's what we're called to, proclaiming God's good news. We aren't just to hear his word. We aren't just to receive his word. At the end of Mass, what do we say? Go forth and proclaim the gospel. Go forth and proclaim the good news. Go into the world and be a disciple.
And, what I love about the story, too, is they had to find a way.
Yeah.
And we got to find a way in our spiritual lives to let God heal us. And we constantly need that healing, whether we've got to go through a roof or we've got to dig under, whatever it takes. That's our challenge, and we can't go out. We can't go if we don't have that healing grace.
Yeah, so back to the foundation that is prayer. It all starts there with your 12 minutes. It starts with that time you spend every day with the Lord, building that relationship. And when we do that, what we all find is our brokenness. When we sit with God, it's amazing how He shows us what needs healing. But the challenge is to let Him heal. Let Him be the divine doctor that He is, and let Him bring into our lives the healing that we need. And then we go out into the world, and we can never be afraid of that. We can never be afraid of our brokenness. We can never be afraid that God truly loves us enough to heal us. And then when we let that happen, when we let Him come into our lives and bring healing, then we can go out and to proclaim that good news.
Great message. And you have plenty of awesome messages. If people out there in social media want to hook up with you, where
Sure.
can they find Father?
So my nickname in high school was Hooch, H-O-O-C-H. Don't think about what you're thinking. It means none of those things. It was just a song that was popular. So all of my social media is Padre Hooch. And so if you want to follow me on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, it's all Instagram.com/Padre Hooch, or you can even go to my website, which is www.padrehooch.com. You can subscribe to my weekly homilies. It's a wonderful way for me to reach people who can't get to Mass or reach people that are in a different place. So check out the website, www.padrehooch.com, or any other social media.
And we're beacons of light. He's a beacon of light. So take him in on that invitation, a great invitation to hear God's message in a very powerful way. One of the things I love about the St. Vincent de Paul Society is all the great people. And joining me is the president of the St. Paul Conference right here in the Diocese of Baton Rouge. Janet, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure being here, Michael.
You told me right before we went on camera what got you involved in St. Vincent de Paul and what motivates you to help people. So tell us a little bit.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised Catholic in New Roads, Louisiana, and we were raised in that environment of giving and sharing and helping each other. My mother was a philanthropist and just, one of those persons who embraced everyone with her kindness. And so, in addition to that, the good feeling that I experience when I am able to help someone that need help, or cheer someone up, or be of comfort to someone, the feeling is undescribable, and the reward is tremendous. We all have to work toward our heavenly home, and these are the type of things that we do in an effort to get there.
And for you, your spirituality, you talk about being younger and growing spiritually. Mm-hmm. Now, as you've grown and you're a social worker, a retired social worker, correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And so you professionally help people. Why is that so important to remember that spiritual growth? And do you see it over time,
Yes. I feel each day that the good Lord give us, we should be of service, and we should make that day count to be of significance. And the best way you can do that is to share the goodness of the Lord with others, to be of service to mankind. And if you're just able to help one person, then that in itself is rewarding. So it's quality and quantity. And I feel that it is a blessing, but also it is a duty and an obligation for me to give back to others for the riches that I have received.
It's kind of like paying back all the blessings.
Exactly.
If you do an inventory of blessings in your life, which you just kind of did. You talked about your mom.
Yes.
That's a blessing.
Yes.
That is a priceless gift.
Right.
And you kind of say to yourself, how can I be a gift to others?
Correct. And then put contentment and satisfaction enrich my life, my present here on earth's surface, because we all need to be of service, to help others, to have others feel a presence of our existence here. And so if we can touch their lives in some way, if we can be of service, if we can help them, if we can make their lives better, then that's really the reason why we are here and the essence of all of our living.
And St. Paul has a great St. Vincent de Paul conference. You got some great members. Why don't you just talk about why it's so important that St. Vincent de Paul members come together to serve the poor?
Well, especially with an area like St. Paul where there is a great need for financial assistance, where it's a high crime rate, low income, there is a genuine need for help. And most of the time when people come to us, their need is genuine. And it's basic things that you need in order to exist, like a place to stay, your utilities turned on, food, clothing. And so you can't accomplish anything until you're able to, these needs, these basic needs are met. And then you can go on and try to, be of, contribute to society. So we at St. Paul feel the need, and we are eager to address it, to embrace it, and help the people that so desperately need help. Our priest is wonderful. He is a person that strongly believes in taking care of each other. And so we get the cooperation from him. We get excellent cooperation from St. Vincent de Paul Society. And we're just pleased to be of service and able to administer the things and do what Frederick Ozanam, his philosophy. As I read his history and the things that he believed in his philosophy, this was truly a great man. And we need to follow in his footsteps.
Well, I can tell you as a witness that all of the St. Vincent de Paul members at St. Paul Conference, they're living that walk of faith that Frederick Ozanam and then St. Vincent de Paul, our patron, did. Great people that cared about the poor and lived their faith in a remarkable way. Jesus said that the poor will always be with us, and we're always challenged on how to respond. And joining me, Kim Boudreau, who's on our board of directors, an active member at the St. Aloysius Conference. We talked a little bit about Parish St. Vincent de Paul in another segment, but in this segment, we're going to talk about our special works. We're here in our dining room where, for I was hungry, you gave me food, we feed people. But, for I was naked and you clothed me, and our Uniforms for Kids effort is all about that. I know you participated in that, and why is that important?
It's important because, there's emergency poverty, and then there's generational poverty, and to me, or systemic poverty, and the way out of systemic poverty is through education. And so if a child feels comfortable to go to school and to learn, then that's their way out of poverty.
And in a real true sense, whether it's a hot meal or a school uniform, it's a material way we can kind of share God's love with somebody in need, right?
Right.
And the children kind of see that when they receive those uniforms.
Yes, it's a very interesting experience when they come to shop and try on, and I'd never worked retail in my life, so it was my first experience at that.
And by profession, you are an engineer.
Correct.
So you just recently retired,
Yes.
And so you had a little extra time to but you've been active in ministry work for St. Aloysius for all your working career. That's been an important part of your faith life, right?
Correct.
Yeah. How has the society, since taking it over from Sister Josephine there at St. Aloysius, how's it helped you grow spiritually, whether it's uniforms or whether it's going to make a home visit, a car visit, whatever it was you were involved in?
I think, to be a Christian, to be a follower of Christ means more than just going to church on Sunday. It means going out in the world as Jesus did and trying to be Jesus for people, trying to help in some small little way. And through the ministries at St. Aloysius or through the St. Vincent de Paul, either special works or the home visits, it gives you that opportunity. It's the structure that kind of provides you the privilege and the opportunity to be Christ to these people.
And in a real true sense, if we do a real good job, I've heard Vincentians say, we are called to see the face of Christ in the neighbors that we serve, but if we do a really great job, they then see the face of Christ in us. That's
Yes.
hard. For me, it's very humbling, to think that we're playing a role in God's overall plan to serve someone. And in a lot of ways, whether it's a school uniform or a hot meal, sometimes these people that we are so blessed to serve as our neighbors, they are praying for a miracle, and we kind of participate in making that happen, huh?
Correct. And it is humbling when you see how deep their faith is. I mean, they trust that somehow their needs are going to be met, through St. Vincent de Paul or some other ministry. Their faith is just so deep. And so that's humbling for me as I examine my faith.
Well, I think in today's world and so much materialism and things are just available, sometimes we forget that everything we have in our lives is a blessing, right?
Correct. It's all a gift from God.
And when our members, either at St. Aloysius Conference or another conference in the diocese or at Special Works, when they give of themselves, they're really giving the gift only they can give, and that's a true gift from God, isn't it?
Correct. Your
And-
time is, all the time you have on this earth is a gift from God.
Yes, it is. And I can tell you that whether it's St. Aloysius or St. Vincent de Paul Special Works, that's what we're doing at the St. Vincent de Paul Society. We're making the gospel come to life for those in need.
Frederick Ozanam married the daughter of the rector of the Lyons Academy on June 23, 1841. They had a very happy marriage. From the time of their marriage until his death 12 years later, he sent his wife a bouquet of flowers on the 23rd of each month, a continual demonstration of his great love and respect for her.
Over 400 years ago, St. Vincent de Paul started his ministry to the poor. He started it with great enthusiasm, and his call was for each of us to look inside ourselves to see how we can reach people who truly needed that helping hand. Basically, how can we spread God's love? And that's what Vincent's focus always was. How can we spread God's love to those in need? Father Cyril Delacroix was our founder in Baton Rouge, and for the first 28 years, he led the society in a remarkable way. But what happened after Father Delacroix? What was the members of the society, the lay people that took up the work of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul? People who went out, made home visits. And so conferences, as the church grew, conferences, St. Vincent de Paul groups, which we call conferences, just like Frederick Ozanam did in the 1830s, continued to grow. St. Agnes established a conference. St. George established a conference. Sacred Heart established a conference, all early. But during times like the Great Depression, St. Vincent de Paul was growing to meet that need. In the 1930s, all these separate St. Vincent de Paul groups here locally decided we need to form a group, a council, to kind of take things on together, not as separate entities. So in 1930, right there during the Great Depression, they formed the council. And that council was geared at how can we better serve those in need. And that was much needed in the 1930s. As time went on, the society continued to grow here locally. In the 1950s, we had really good growth, but it was the 1960s where things really took off. The Diocese of Baton Rouge was formed in the early 60s, and Bishop Robert Tracy was a big supporter of our local society because he knew the importance of our work. So in 1963, a St. Vincent de Paul thrift store was open. That store was to give items and furniture and other things that needy families needed at no cost. It did great. It was established and did well. Then in 1982, the society also saw the need for a dining room to serve people in need. Again, both of these projects really geared at sharing God's love, either through material items like furniture, but also food, all of the basics. So many people have told me how St. Vincent de Paul's impacted their lives. And it all goes back to our founder, Vincent de Paul, his vision of reaching people, his vision of sharing God's love. That's what's so important about our local society, is that spiritual growth, that each of us, we are called to grow. We are called to examine how we can make the world a better place. And that's what these St. Vincent de Paul projects do. Our dining room project, when it was open, had the support of Bishop Stanley Joseph Ott. He loved the work of the society. As a former spiritual advisor for the society, he knew the importance of making a difference one person at a time. So our challenge for you today is look at yourself and look at what you can do as part of our Vincentian family. There may be something out there we could do, but we can only do it with you. So give the priceless gift that only you can give, the gift of yourself. The Society of St. Vincent de Paul's first cookbook, Taste and See, is the gift which helps share the goodness of the Lord with those most in need. Featuring recipes from Chef John Foles, each chapter begins with a short story about one of our special work programs. To order your copy of Taste and See, please call the Society or visit our website. Help multiply blessings for the neediest in our community. The Society of St. Vincent de Paul depends on volunteers every day. They are our cherished, beloved individuals that make our work a reality. And joining me is Debbie Shelley. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, how long have you been volunteering for St. Vincent now?
11 years.
Now, before we went on camera, we said, now you've been volunteering at the St. Vincent de Paul dining room pretty much every week for 11 years. We figured the average number of meals, and we figured out that you've been a part of 200,000 meals.
Yes.
It's amazing. When people come through the line for that hot, delicious meal, what has impacted you spiritually as you're there to serve?
The positive smiles on their faces. And you can tell when you serve some of them a meal that they say, okay, I have this meal now, there's more hope for the rest of the day. You might be giving them that one glimpse of hope that things will be okay, because they seem to be more centered and positive, like, I think I can make it now. I have a meal, I can go from here, you know, and that people care about them. We all try to smile and engage with the people and just ask them how their day is going, and they in turn motivate us, inspire us, because they're just saying, I'm just so blessed. I woke up today. I'm so blessed, you know. It's just
and you're shoulder to shoulder with other volunteers,
Yes.
and it's kind of a team faith commitment, isn't it? And
is.
and there's and as you see people come through, for me, it's always the children that touch my heart during the
Definitely.
holidays and the summer. Is that what touches your heart the most?
Definitely. In fact, I say a prayer that their future might be more hopeful, that they will have those opportunities to go to college and to make the life that they always dreamed of. And when you look at the parents' face, you know that it's their hope too. And so it just touches our hearts, and parents sometimes share that may be the only meal, 1 or 2 meals that they get a day. And but they're still so eager, so just so happy and joyful, and you want to see their future to be the best and brightest possible. That's my prayer for each one that comes through.
Well, you know, as Catholics, we're called to understand that Christ loves us all and we are saved because He's our Savior. But He does ask of us to step forward and bring His good news into the world through meals or whatever work it is that you've witnessed at the society. What's been, you know, the most uplifting part of that work in your faith life?
Oh my goodness, it makes me so much more grateful for what I have. My problems become so small compared when I hear some of their stories. I came thinking that, oh my gosh, I have all this to do, and when I hear some of their trials and tribulations, it's minuscule what I've been through them. And I'm so much more grateful that I'm provided for, and it's a wonderful conversation between us and the people coming through the line that, they actually inspire my faith life. And I leave each serving time more inspired, more lifted, and saying, grateful, thank you, God, for all that I have.
Well, you know, when I see somebody like you, Debbie, and others that come year after year, week after week, serving the poor, it's uplifting to me in my faith life because I know you and others are responding to Christ's call to seek and find the forgotten. And that's why we need you to join our ministry. Follow Debbie's example and the example of thousands of volunteers every year at the St. Vincent de Paul Dining Room. Get involved and make a difference in our charitable work. Our volunteers are passionate about our work. You can see it in the interviews that we just shared with you. They love their St. Vincent de Paul ministry because they are responding to Christ's call to seek and find the forgotten. They understand by loving one another, we make the world a better place. One Vincentian one time told me that if we do a really good job, people see the face of Christ in us. In other words, they see that we're spreading God's love. And that's really what the mission is. Once you're a recipient of God's love and mercy, then you can spread it. And that is what's so infectious about the gospel, God's love. Help us spread it. Join our St. Vincent de Paul family. Go to svdpbr.org and become a part of a very special family in the Diocese of Baton Rouge.